Hello, welcome to another Eagle 6 test video. Today we're going to be testing this TM MP5K. This one was a bit of a palaver of a gun it turned out into. It's one of those things where not every gun that sort of comes in where somebody sort of says, can you just fit a spring and just get me a little bit more FPS? It's not necessarily easy on every single gun. You know, you do have to sort of design these builds a little bit and obviously combine parts. So obviously the moment you put a stronger spring in here, obviously that then obviously has effects on other parts that are in there. Now sometimes with some of the guns it's sort of almost like a non-issue, so with people just being able to change springs at home. Other times, you know, it does cause issues and stuff, and just an example, with this particular gun we do have a bit of a struggle with these MP5Ks. Generally, if you just Google on the internet, it's a very similar thing across the board, but essentially it's a very short barrel on here, very short cylinder, so your air volume's low. This one's also the high cycle series, so obviously it's pretty short stroked. Combine that with a high speed motor, so the moment we put obviously the M120 spring in there to obviously bump up the FPS, we were only getting around about 280, and you know, which is obviously well short of the customer's target of say 345, and obviously it then had obviously implications, if you know what I mean, on the rest of the gun, in that you know, trigger response was pretty slow, slash, you know, lockups and stuff, and then when we tried the 135 it was absolutely locking up, you know. So we went a slightly different route in that we did have to obviously install a high torque motor in there, i.e. removing the high speed one that comes with the TM one, in order to give us the power that we needed to obviously power the M120 spring. And so overall we fit Prometheus purple hop rubber, the flat nub, in order to obviously give the lift on the heavier ammos, which is essentially what the customer wanted, was more range, more accuracy, because it wasn't shooting that to start off with. Obviously these are 240-ish FPS out of the box, so not amazing in terms of speed to target. And then obviously when you try to use the heavier ammos to get this to your range, it's not gonna do very well. So we fit a slightly longer barrel, slightly bigger cylinder in here to see if we could just over volume it a little bit. You know, it's still much shorter than, you know, any cylinder I would probably use on a similar amount of teeth removed on a short stroke setup. So I think we could have probably eked out even slightly longer barrel and maybe a slightly bigger cylinder to see if we can bump that up a bit more, but we've gone with what we've gone with, which is the 135mm and the E-type cylinder. Obviously combined with the Nuprol motor, the high torque, the Prometheus spring guide, Prometheus piston head, the Prometheus pre-short stroked sector gear for the high cycle series, just the sector gear on its own. Obviously again we're balancing budget here, and then the Prometheus MS120 spring, obviously the Tightbore 135mm barrel, and then obviously a Dean's connection at the back here, then obviously reshim for the motor, because obviously the motor's got a slightly bigger pinion gear. It was a bit of a faff trying to shim that up, I must admit. It is quite close to the limit, you know, combined with obviously the fact that V3s and MP5 are obviously a pain in the arse anyway for shimming. Yeah, overall it took a bit longer than what we'd hoped, but we got there in the end, and obviously now we've got a bit more information if you remember with regards to these. We didn't go down the route of air nozzle. Prometheus don't do one. We didn't want to sort of take any gambles. We did try an equal length one, but we found instant hop unit issues, you know, by fitting a similar length one, or the same length one, so I think it's 20.7, 70 I think, so and it just didn't fit, if you know what I mean. So clearly there's obviously sizing issues to think about there as well, and other than just length, and yeah, it's quite complicated, and we'd already spent a lot of time on this one, so we just drawing the line in the sand there, if you know what I mean. We don't want to keep devolving every single gun build, if you know what I mean, into project territory. So yeah, I think we've got a nice dialed in build now, and we'll just demo this just to show you. So obviously no MOSFET on here, because we were trying to keep within budget, and we've clearly got a lot of parts installed there, all focused on trying to increase that FPS to as high as possible. you go. So pretty good trigger response there, I think. So bearing in mind that's still on mechanical, and we've also got just obviously mechanical with a high torque motor in there. So I demonstrated on the mid cap there just to show it clearly feeding, because obviously high caps can be, as soon as they start getting low or not quite wound properly, they start doing intermittent feeding, if you know what I mean, and then it just sounds horrible. So so obviously if you are going to use high caps, make sure you keep them as highly filled as possible, and then obviously make sure they're all wound. And obviously the moment you start getting feeding issues, you know, make sure you wind on some more, and then obviously if it keeps on doing it, then obviously refill it. So even if it sounds like there's still some left in it, that's just high cap issues, woes generally across the board. So hopefully specification is okay. Obviously I know we crept up on the budget there from, you know, essentially just a spring, but that's obviously sort of teching, you know, starts out as something simple and ends up just spiraling out of control into something much more complex. But we hope you enjoy it. Any problems, let us know, and I will obviously put all the details in the video description for anyone else that's interested. So thank you.